help me welcome the wizard and the warrior.
Yeah. What do you think? Good? Yeah, so we wanted to share with you today a dynamic that we've found to be very powerful in our business, and we think is something you can activate in your organization. Whether or not you have the guts to do it in costume, your call. Your call. But we want to share that with you today.
So we're all human, and we tend to default to working with people who think like us and see the world in the same way. And that's great because you don't have as much conflict when you have less diversity within your organization. So this speech is about the fact that we think in a very different way. We see the world in a very different way. We have conflict. And we'd like to share with you how we've gotten through that conflict and the lessons that we've learned.
Yep, and share some of the archetypes. You know, it's funny, people talk about strong culture. So when you hire people that are a lot like you, you do create a strong culture. I started a previous business where we grew really quickly, and we had Nielsen come in and do an assessment of our top 167 managers, and they told us it was statistically remarkable how identical the managers were to one another. So what it means is where you're strong, you're incredibly strong, but where you're weak, you're world class. And so this wizard and warrior dynamic is something that I think is something that you can apply to your business proactively to help mitigate some of that. Can we get the presentation up on the screen? Presentation, folks, or maybe I do it. So, I'm Kyle. I'm the wizard.
I'm Monique Elwell. I am the warrior.
We discovered this dynamic fairly organically. When I was thinking about starting Storyvine, I knew that I had this great idea, and I know that I needed someone to do the business part of it.
And I knew I'm really good at taking other people's ideas and turning them into a business.
In fact, she said that on our first conversation. She's like, well, before we start, just let me tell you, I like taking good ideas and turning them into businesses. I'm like, okay, this is going to work out good. And one of our very first our pitches, we were pitching IBM, and we didn't have any technology. We were trying to bamboozle them into buying something. And I was trying to explain our dynamic, and I said, well, if you want to understand Monique and I, it's kind of like this. I'm the hand-wavy guy, and she keeps the trains running on time. And that really is the dynamic. The dynamic is also something that you see in lots of other models. So we work with a guy named Howard Teich. He's an ex-Jungian psychologist, a business coach, really brilliant guy. He's got a book called Solar Light, Lunar Light, and he talks about this dynamic as the balance between lunar and solar. What's nice about his model is there's not an assignment of gender to one or the other. In some of the Jungian archetypes, you know, the lunar is often considered the feminine. But Howard talks about you can have a lunar masculine and a solar feminine, and for our dynamic, that works pretty well. The lunar tends to be intuitive, emotionally aware, empathetic, communicative, flexible, that sort of thing.
And the warrior tends to be reliable, sort of the buck stops here, they're organized, they tend to take a directive leadership approach.
There's another, how many people in the room have heard of the EOS, the Entrepreneur Operating System? Okay, number of folks in the room. They call this dynamic the balance between the visionary and the intuitive. So if you're already thinking, oh, I know who these people are in my organization, EOS as a management system is incredibly powerful because it's really based on leveraging this dynamic. The visionary in this model creates the company vision, has lots of ideas, sees the big picture, connects the dots, tends to have ADD, which I'm pretty sure I don't.
Yeah, right. So the integrator tends to be the person, again, who keeps the trains running on time. They're the business person. Typically, they tend to be the person who is actually everyone else in the organization is reporting to. They tend to be the remover of obstacles, right? If someone in the org has a problem, they figure out how to solve that problem.
Yep, and what led us to standing here in front of you in costume is we were talking to an investor, I don't know, a year ago. And we were talking about this dynamic. I think we were talking about EOS and how we work together. And he just blurted out, he goes, "Oh, you're the wizard and the warrior archetypes. Have you heard of Jung?" And we had, but we hadn't really put it together like that.
Yep. So I will just actually read this to you because I think it's a good synopsis of what a Jungian archetype is. Instinctual and universal thought patterns that humans have developed through thousands of years of evolution. So it's not a personality type. So I can be a wizard at work and I can go home and have another archetype later. I shift.
You're the warrior at work.
Sorry, a warrior at work.
Come on.
A warrior at work and shift into a different archetype in a different situation based on what the needs are of my environment. I could wear different hats effectively.
Yeah, and again, these are patterns that are very, very deep. They're in our subconscious, and that's one of the reasons that they're very powerful. And so the attributes, the traits of the wizard tend to be categorized as intellectually curious, the holder of hidden knowledge, right? Someone in the wizard role can sort of bring things out of the ether and materialize them. They tend to be masters of technology. They can be very reflective. They can be a little reticent. If they don't really trust that their wisdom is going to be well used, they can be a little reticent. They tend to be the alchemist of life, a spiritual mediator, so bringing things from out there down to here. And that's really what the wizard is all about.
The warrior, on the other hand, is very purpose-driven. They survey the field and they figure out how they need to be flexible in order to achieve the purpose that they're going after. Very decisive, very priority-focused, and most importantly, the crusher of dreams.
It's true. So we're going to talk about the conflict.
Yeah.
Also in these archetypes, if you know Jung, if you've studied this stuff at all, are the shadows to these. So there's positive traits and there's shadows. So for the wizard, the shadows are, they can be very manipulative, they can be very cynical. They can want to sort of just jump on the bandwagon for lots of ideas but not really do the work, so grab credit for ideas, so there's shadows with it. The shadow of the warrior, crusher of dreams,
is
go
the
on.
sadist, right? So as a warrior, you have to make sure that you're not going down the path of crushing those dreams because it's fun. What you want to do is think of the creative process is not just what you add to it. It's not just additive. It's also subtractive. So when he comes up with a bazillion ideas and they're all fantastic, what is the what are the idea and how do we shape that idea by removing things and saying no to stuff that may not come to fruition? Yep. The other one, which is the one that I have to work on, is the martyr. I am going to take on the world. I'll do it. We're going to bring it forward. We're going to do this. I'm a codependent enabler. Gone through lots of therapy as a result. So I try not to take on the world by myself. I'm now learning to sort of delegate things and make certain that I don't fall into that martyr shadow.
And when that, with Monique, when that shadow does take over, she tends to be in her room, in her office with the door closed, and I'll be like, "Hey, Monique," she's like, "I'm taking on the world,"
Gotta get this done.
Gotta get it done. Get out of my room. Get out of my face. So we've got this dynamic. Sounds cool, looks cool. I hope. Tweeting. That was the lousiest wizard costume I've ever seen. Howard Teich, the guy that wrote Solar Light, Lunar Light, has a concept called twinning. And twinning is a very active, empathetic engagement. And in order for us to be in business and not kill one another, I spend more time with Monique than I do with my wife, so this is my work wife. And in order for us to be productive and have this dynamic work for the business and not just be chaos all the time, you've got to really leverage your strengths. So the thing in the middle is the business. It's Storyvine, right? We've got a purpose as a business. We're out to democratize video storytelling globally. Cool. That's the purpose. The warrior natural focus is toward purpose and supports the wizard in keeping on to the purpose.
Focus, Kyle, focus.
Exactly. Without that focus, The wizard tends to go off on flights of fancy. So, oh, I got an idea. Well, you know what we could do? A story vine. Oh, this is going to be good. Whee! Right? So, with the warrior's support, that becomes focused transformation. It becomes an incredibly powerful force, right? And an increasingly powerful force. The other thing about when you run a business are relationships, right? Your customers, your employees, things like that. Those need to be a focus. Those are the natural focus of the wizard, right? Connecting, empathy, all that sort of stuff, natural focus. The wizard supports the warrior in remembering the relationships, because without listening to people, the warrior can become
dominant.
You look good.
Thank you.
With the support of the warrior, that becomes empathetic action. And then what ends up happening is when you do this right, and the key is empathy and active engagement with the other, it really becomes this circle of intention. It becomes a nonlinear creative process that is increasingly powerful over time. And it creates a culture that respects both of these dynamics because they really are, disparate. Does that make sense? So,
Yeah.
what's that?
Apparently I need to slay some dragons back there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, exactly. So, you can't just have a wizard and a warrior and not have a quest. You need to have a quest. Well, Storyvine's the quest, and we've had a bunch of little chapters along the way. Monique right now is in the middle of this little chapter called Procurement Dragons, where she's slaying the procurement departments at Merck and Pfizer and Novartis. And
No, we did Novartis. No, Teva and Takeda.
Teva and Takeda, yeah. So 11 months for Pfizer so far?
Yeah, they've taken the...
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she's in there wielding the sword, I want to talk a little bit about the origin story of Storyvine. So, 2006, you'll notice Monique's not in the picture. I had this brilliant idea. It was really brilliant. Seriously, trust me, it's going to be big. And it was so good that I said, I'm going to jump in with both feet. I'm going to do this thing. And the vision was to democratize video storytelling. And I thought I was behind the curve. Like in 2006, I'm like, oh my God, I got to do this because someone's going to do it. I was a little ahead. I was pitching CNN about doing political coverage this way. Imagine being able to do, short-form video shows for every level of politics. I was pitching NASCAR about doing fan-generated shows. I ended up getting hired by New Line Cinema. And the whole idea of the business was very highly templatized, short-form video production, create original content. So I get hired by New Line Cinema, which seems pretty heady and cool. But I got my first job, and I realized, oh my God, this is a nightmare. This will never scale. The whole intent of the idea was to be able to scale video production. And what I learned after a year and a half and way too much money was that as long as you have to manually edit video, and no matter how templatized it is, it doesn't scale. So I shut it down. I put my tail between my legs. I took my little wizard staff. I disconnected it, and I put it in the drawer. And I went away for 5 years, and I did crap that paid the bills, but I didn't like doing because I was a little stung. And then I had a sort of follow-on epiphany that, wait a minute, what if I could automate all of the stuff that didn't make this scalable? Maybe it would be scalable. And I knew at that point I shouldn't be left to my own devices. I should have someone that's going to ask tough questions like, was this actually a business? Like, sure, it's a good idea, but is it a business? That would be her. So I called Monique.
So I didn't really understand what the hell he was talking about. But I figured...
We're democratizing video storytelling. What is not to understand?
Mean?
It's perfect. It's beautiful.
So I happened to be looking for a job, and I was trying to figure out what my next thing was. I'm an entrepreneur, and I had been speaking with another video company that was doing something I understood, right? They were talking about metrics, and we're going to measure video. Okay, great. So I said, to tell you what, I'll piggyback on some research that I'm already doing, and I called about 25 people and figured out who would buy this, right? Where's the value? I called everyone from the guy that ran Coca-Cola's Consumer Insights to the woman that ran social media for AT&T, all the way down to homeschooling moms across different industries from the largest to the smallest. And all 25 of them said, forget about that other video thing. We don't care about metrics. You should do this Storyvine thing. We would buy that. So I called up Kyle and said, I still don't understand what the hell this is, but I can sell it.
Yeah.
So I think we can make a business from it.
Yeah, and that was the first year of the business, this was 2012, was really us trying to figure out, could we sell this thing that didn't actually exist yet? And we went and talked to an investor. You had a connection, Brian Wallace at Access Ventures. Yep. Probably within a week or two of starting the business, we're like, we're going to go, as the wizard, we're going to go talk to this VC. I'm going to pitch him this brilliant vision, and we're going to have money by like next week. So we go pitch Brian Wallace, and he's like, brilliant idea. That's visionary. I don't think you can do it. And so the warrior in her came out. She goes, we can do it. We can do it. So that led us to some more journeys, and we actually built the product. So we could go through some of these chapters, but I thought what might be good is to really, I wanted to make this talk not only fun and memorable, but also practical. And I want to share with you a concept of a couple of lenses of how we see the world differently. We are very much aligned kind of on a personal level. We kind of get the same jokes and about, we think Storyvine's a big company and it's worth us spending our lives on, right? There's a bunch of stuff we really agree on. And we look at the exact same things, but we see them through different lenses. So I'd like to talk about those lenses now, and not just how we see the world different, but what we actively do to work together to sort of bridge the gap that we have and bridge some of the problems that it causes. So the first lens is time horizon.
So Kyle sees the world 10 years out, and I see the world 0 to 3 years, because that's the lens I need to have to run a business.
Yeah, and what it looks like for me is, 10 years out, we've transformed communications, we're doing global storytelling projects. Imagine being able to capture stories of veterans all over the world, no matter what war they were in, sort of on a massive scale. Could be an incredibly powerful, if you know the Shoah project that Spielberg did, a lot of that raw footage is still on hard drives in the basement at USC. With Storyvine, those vet stories could be shared with the world immediately, like really powerful. So I kind of see it like that. And I see billions in value.
And that's awesome. But, I got to make payroll. I got to make my quarterly numbers. What's my sales strategy for the next year? These are the things that I look at for the next 0 to 3 years out.
Yep. And the sort of chapter in our story that we'll share, we've nicknamed the enthusiasm chasm. And it's a direct result, it's a sales challenge that we ran into where people would get really excited, but they wouldn't pull the trigger with Storyvine. And it was actually a result of us seeing the world in this lens. You want to talk about?
So Kyle would come in with his visionary wizard-like hand-wavy stuff, and he would go, oh my God, let me share with you, potential client, all the different things that Storyvine can do in the future. One day we'll do this, and isn't that amazing? And the clients would go, wow, that's amazing. In fact, at one point, he had a standing ovation. It's the only time I've ever seen a standing ovation in a sales pitch.
In a pitch.
And we would leave, and they would...
Killed it. They didn't hire us.
Yeah. To my point. And they would leave going, I don't know how we can engage, right? Because he's talking 10 years out. I need something right now. I need to hire something right now. So I actually sort of redesigned the sales pitch and said, you need to focus on what is the value that Storyvine provides to them right now, and what can they accomplish in the next 3 months, 6 months, 12 months. And then that's actionable, and we can take that through and they can sign. And you know what? You can tell them about the vision, but we can't sell that right now.
Yeah, and the initial emotional impact of that is really painful.
I killed his child.
Right? It's like, I really do want to work with Oliver Stone and go tell vet stories, or do Olympic athletes globally, sharing training. There's a bunch of stuff. And then, we got to do this, 10 video project with this, client, because that's going to pay the bills. What's been fascinating is once I gave up the ego piece of having to live in that vision place and really connect back with this is serving the business, and I have to earn the right to get to that vision with this other stuff. I'm very often the one in pitches now going to clients. I'll start to get them excited and ramped up, and as they start to get excited, I'll shut it down. Yeah. I'll say, you know what? That's all exciting, but we're never going to do any of that. Let's start with the one thing that you could get hired, promoted for or fired for if it goes wrong, that this kind, video could help. Do you know that project? They always know that project, right? So what I have to work with because of this lens, and with regards to Monique, and with our technology, I need to see what I consider our minor, someone else's major. So I look at a small little feature of our technology that I think like, oh God, that's like it's just a toy compared to this thing we're going to build. But for that person, it's really remarkable. Like we have an app, you answer a few questions in the app, it goes up into the cloud, and pring, out comes a video. I'm bored with that, but what I have to, but I am. But what I have to keep in touch with is not everyone else is, right? So I need to consciously sort of bring myself out of the clouds. And also doing the mundane with passion, doing projects that might not excite me, but know that they're connected to this bigger vision.
And what I have to work on is I can get really focused in that zero, what's next, what's at the tip of my nose, because I need to worry about all the mechanics of running a business. And sometimes I just need to step back and go, let me just re-engage with the vision again. Let me just get excited about that and remember why we're on this quest. The other thing I need to work on, and this is the one I really have to work on, is panning Kyle's ideas for gems. He comes in and goes, oh my God, I got this great idea. And now we have a safe word. Right? It's true.
That's true.
It's true. He says the word fantasy, and I don't get that amygdala whoosh every time he comes into my office saying, I got this great idea. Now I go, okay, safe word, good.
Yeah,
okay, I will hear your idea now. I will listen to your idea, and maybe that could turn into something else. That's fantastic. But right now, we don't have to act on it.
You got it. It's okay. You got me water. Thank you. Why no? I asked for water, and yay, they brought wine. Here I am, the wizard. Oh, God. The days at the Utah Shakespeare Festival are coming back to haunt me.
All right, focus, Kyle.
Focus. We can have so much fun. There's a presentation we're doing. Gut versus data is the next lens.
Yeah.
So I'm all instinct and feeling, as you can imagine. Monique is more research and data. You want to talk to that?
I think you just stole my line.
Oh.
Yeah.
That. Oh, fine.
Yeah.
This happens a lot, too.
Yeah.
Oh, way to go, Kyle.
Yeah.
Yeah. For me, I know when it feels right. I know I have powerful instincts. I tend to be very, very good at having an instinct about when clients are happy or not happy, or sort of disconnecting. And it's a very real thing for me. Like it is as true for me as whatever research or data Monique might have brought up.
So I tend to lean more towards, let me look at quantitative data. I have a research background in qualitative as well, so I'm comfortable in both spaces. But there are elements about quantitative data where it's hard to sort of dispute those. I do believe in going out and researching stuff, whether it be qualitative or quantitative. And I also know that emotions aren't facts.
Yep. And the little chapter of our story that we'd like to talk a little bit about is a chapter we call the revenue drought. So in a startup, there are times when you are flush with cash. No, there aren't. In a startup, there are times when you have enough cash that you can sleep for a day or two. And then there's the revenue drought.
So about 3 years ago, this dynamic started for us, where we really were looking at the world in a different way, and it caused a lot of conflict. And this is this revenue drought, where I pulled all the numbers, and I ran the numbers, and I said, oh, we've got our sales pipeline, and we're bringing in people here, and we're doing this, and we're doing this. And this area in particular is, we've got great conversion rates. So I'm not worried about this area. And Kyle's like, that's the worst area. I don't know. We're not closing any business. I'm like, what are you talking, So we never resolved that problem, but 3 years later, after doing that dynamic over and over and over, we finally did, and I figured it out. And we were talking about the number of videos that were being filmed by clients. And he was like, the numbers are horrible. I'm like, what are you talking about? They're great. Our clients are filming. We should feel good about this. And he kept pushing on it. He's like, no, the numbers are wrong. And I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna listen. I'm gonna use the Socratic method this time finally, and I'm gonna sort of tease out what the problem was. And what we came to discover is it wasn't that clients weren't filming a lot of videos, is that they weren't filming qualitatively good videos. So in his mind, he was only counting the qualitatively good videos.
Yeah.
And I didn't understand what the hell he was talking
Yeah.
about. So.
Yeah, on a spreadsheet, there are 12. In my head, there are 2, right? But learning that she thinks like that, and learning that I actually have to bring out of my head that I've discounted 10 of the 12 is a really important piece of that. And so what it ends up looking like, what I need to work at, one of them is not taking things personally. So when it's gut and data, sometimes if Monique doesn't have the data, I'll have some big idea or something like that. She'll just ask a question, and I'm like, "You're killing my child," and learning not to take it personally. The other thing that I've learned is, if I have an idea that I'm particularly passionate about and that I feel is strategically important to the business, I'll actually do a little bit of research, and I'll go to her with some facts and say, here we lost these clients, or here's some things I read online, and that leads to this idea that I've got, and it allows her to sort of connect how she thinks about things to that idea.
And then I have to really make sure that I can hear him and accept the fact that, not always, but sometimes he might be really onto something. And in order to figure that out, I use the Socratic method. I use the Socratic method, and of course, lots of patience.
Yeah, all of these have patience as their last bullet point. That's important. So what we're talking about does not mean there's not going to be conflict. There is going to be conflict. But it ends up being creative conflict. Back to that circle of intention. As long as we're empathetically listening to the other one, we're getting pretty good at understanding tone. I can understand when she's frustrated. She can understand when I'm excited. So then it becomes about how do you tease out the actual communication. Ma'am. The third lens is innovation. Innovation's a really interesting one. Innovation and disruption. I see innovation and disruption as fixing things. Monique sees innovation and disruption as breaking things. And this is probably one of the biggest ones, right? And we'll explain, what it means. But for me, collaboration is my happy place. So even if something's not broken, sometimes I want to collaborate just to come up with something new. For me, not having the answer is fun. Now we get to make one, right? What if, for me, is very sexy. Right, so that's kind of where I am all the time. And if I had my druthers, that would be the mode I'd be in. And so for Monique,
I know that chaos breaks things, right? So if we're constantly creating new products and new products and new products, and there's a new idea and new this, there's nothing that has the time to take hold and germinate. I know that process is critical to scale. We're not going to be able to scale this business unless we have some modicum of process, as opposed to reinventing the wheel every single day.
Awesome.
And also, new products mean work, right? So if we're going to come up with a new product, we're going to have to figure out a whole bunch of things that are associated with that product in order to get it to market. And we're resource constrained.
Yep. And we're going to talk about a little phase of our business we call pasta at the wall. There was a time shortly after we got our first seed round in 2014, and we finally got to build this technology that I've been dreaming of. So for me, it was a good year to play. So I was pitching, air conditioning maintenance guys. You could do videos for your business, and we were, doing training videos, and we did our first pharmaceutical then, and I think Kevin and I then came up with the sales thing, and you want to talk about that?
So it was sort of at the tail end of the pasta at the wall, and we had made a decision to target pharmaceuticals because we knew they met certain criteria within the business, and we thought it was going to be a successful thing. And in the end, it turned out to be the successful thing. But it took time to sell it in. As we expected, their procurement is, often challenging, let's say. And during this period, Kyle's like, ooh, I got another idea. So he and Kevin Clark, who's one of our senior advisors, Kevin used to run IBM's global brand, so we're talking a really heavy hitter here. They came up with this really phenomenal product, which allowed salespeople to provide videos when they were talking with a potential prospect. They did a beautiful web page. They designed a great product. The problem was we were resource constrained, so we never came up with a marketing plan, we never came up with a sales plan, we didn't have any salespeople on it, we didn't have anyone making any phone calls, and as a result, nobody ever sold it, so we didn't sell it.
So died on the vine, and I had already moved on, like, you know, once it hadn't, like, because there was no resources behind it, this thing that was really brilliant and I put all my sort of ADD hyper-focus into, just kind of, you know, laid there and died. And right, so there are sort of constant reminders of, you got to do the work, you've got to reconnect, you've got to listen, right, and really work this dynamic. So for me, what I have to work at is, don't mistake Monique's questions for doubt if she questions something. Understand that we're working toward the same goal, and she's not questioning me. She's trying to understand, where does this thing live in the process? And embracing the power of process and stability. I actually love process as much as I love breaking it. I understand the value of it. I've seen it work. And so for me, there's sort of an active sort of surrendering into, okay, process is good, process is good, process is good. You know, trust it, and trust that we're doing it for a reason.
The one thing I have to work on is I'm not mistaking enthusiasm for a change in direction. Again, we go
Unless it's really good.
and we go back to the safe word.
Fantasy, yeah.
And I embrace the power of collaborative brainstorming. Sometimes I know he just needs to brainstorm and wave his hands a whole bunch, and I just need to sit there and listen. And that's okay. Both of us require a lot of patience.
She just placates me. She's like, okay, same look I get from my wife. Yeah, go on, keep your words, yeah, your mouth is moving. It's good. The last thing that I'll share with you is just kind of a humorous little thing. There is a downside when you really embrace this idea of living into your strengths. There's a downside to having a mythologically strong partner. Is that sometimes how you are perceived and how they are perceived are not where you'd like them to be. So go ahead.
Not once, not twice, not 3 times, but many times I have been at an event such as this, and someone goes, oh, "You're with Storyvine. Is Kyle your partner?" I love Kyle. Oh my God, Kyle. Do you think you could introduce him to me, please? Oh, really? Oh my God, it would be so great. And now I'm just used to it.
Yeah.
But everybody loves Kyle. In fact, we had done some focus group a couple years back on our client base. And this woman surveyed, she's professional research, she surveyed all of our client base. She did telephone and in-person interviews. And at the time, I was basically our account person, right? So early days of Storyvine, I was the one who was providing all the customer service to the clients. And before she presented it to the two of us and the rest of the company, she made sure to come to me, and she's like, "I just want to warn you, I know that you're doing a phenomenal job. I know you. I know the counts are running like clockwork, but everyone's giving credit to Kyle. Everybody loves Kyle." So.
Yeah, and it's a little bit of that magic. And for me, so you know, she gets the everybody loves Kyle. What I get is, Monique is very powerful and very impressive, right, as a human being. And she's very respected for the business side of the business. We were getting ready to do our first or second session for EOS, for this entrepreneur operating system. And our facilitator, I got there early, so it was just the facilitator and I talking. And we were talking about something, and I was frustrated. And at some point I said, "Well, I'm the CEO, I can make that decision." And her response to me was, "You're no CEO. Monique's a CEO." And it was so dismissive, and I'm still friends with her, but it really cut to the core, right? I can make decisions. Like, I've made decisions to close offices when that wasn't the popular thing to do. Like, I am the CEO, but because of this mythologically strong pairing, it's not always seen that way. So, you know, Monique's really sweet, and you should like her, and I can make flipping decisions sometimes. But anyway. Does it make sense? Yeah. So that's it. I mean, the Storyvine journey, we're a 6.5-year-old company. We've had lots of chapters along the way. This is the first time we've done it in costume, so hope you like it.
Thank you.
The journey continues. And that's it. I'm happy. How are we time-wise? What
We're
time
34 minutes in.
34 minutes in. I'm happy to do, what? Oh, yeah, so-
I am the warrior.
And 32 seconds? Take some questions. Happy to answer any questions if you've got them.
All right, we're going to start over here. I promise we're going to work our way around.
Hi.
Hi.
That checked off a lot of nerd boxes for me, so congratulations.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed that.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
So I just wondered if are there other twinnings in Jungian archetypes that you feel like can be as effective as this particular pairing?
I knew someone was going to ask the Jungian archetype question.
It's possible. I think probably we can't speak to it with any authority, unfortunately. We're really just sharing ours. I think possibly. I think this one is pretty close. I mean, if you think about entrepreneurs, sort of the founding entrepreneur with the vision and the idea, and a COO type, this feels fairly like a fairly common dynamic and a required one. There might be variations of it, and that would be worth exploring. But.
An excellent resource for this is actually Howard Teisch, who has helped us prepare for this presentation. And he's the gentleman who came up with the solar and lunar that we talked about before, but he's also extremely knowledgeable around Jungian archetypes as well.
Yeah. Great question. Yeah.
Hi, this question's for Monique, but I can't see you. You're behind it.
Sorry.
Earlier you talked about, so I relate to Kyle, but I see my co-founder and you and everything that you said.
Right.
And one of the things that's always been really interesting for me, and I want to know if you can help reconcile this for
Sure.
me, is how your archetype is both, you called yourself a codependent enabler?
Yes.
But also directive.
Yeah.
How does that come
So
together?
codependent enabler is actually the directive one. They're
Yeah,
the
no,
one
I know,
who's in
but
charge.
how is that in one person? What drives the directive part?
Oh, where did I get it from?
Well, I don't know, it's an archetype, so I guess it's common.
So I will share, I'll share a personal experience, which is actually very common, right? I have a lot of addiction that runs in my family. My father was an alcoholic. My mom was the one who did everything, right? So she was the one that would manage the household. She was the one that would make sure we would go to school. She actually did work as well. So if my dad, for whatever reason, didn't do any of those things, she would pick up the pieces. And then as the relationship continued, she would just assume he wouldn't do that stuff. And as a result, she would continue to do this stuff, and then he just stopped doing it, right? So when you have a real extreme codependent enabler and codependent dependent, the codependent enabler is typically sort of the martyr, right? I am needless and wantless. I will keep doing this because that goes back to my self-worth. So there was one time actually when we were all sitting around the table. This was fairly recently, and we were at Storyvine. We were just extremely busy, and I had a lot of stuff piled on my plate. And it was very emotional for me to take that stuff off my plate and give it to someone else. And why it was emotional, because they said, oh, this isn't getting done, right? This isn't getting done, so Monique, I want to help you. And all I heard was, Monique, you're not doing a good enough job. And I almost cried because I felt I was failing. So you have to acknowledge, when you're dealing with someone like that, you have to acknowledge the fact that their self-worth is tied up with never dropping anything or not accomplishing stuff. So if you sort of approach it like my coworkers did, which was, I know you're very capable, I want to be helpful, allow me to take this off your plate, I can accomplish it.
Yeah, it's a dangerous thing too, because she is so capable and wants to take it on. It's like, oh yeah, take it on.
Monique did.
I can go off and play with my idea thing, right? So, yeah.
Does that help answer your question?
Here we go.
I have two questions, and I
Okay.
hope I can ask both. So let me pose one question.
Okay.
What is the balance between financial risk-taking and being financially conservative? Implementing some of the crazy ideas, and in my sort of, short entrepreneurial journey, I know it was the crazy ideas that allowed us to survive some of the times when I knew we were this close to disappearing and not existing anymore.
Yep.
And yet my warrior on the team shuts down the crazy right now that she's there, which
Right.
the reason she's there is because I had crazy ideas
Right.
and
Right.
was able to bring her on board. But right now to her it sounds too risky and she prefers the conservative style. So that causes a ton of tension. So on a
Yep.
financial side, when money is involved, how do you guys
Yeah.
reconcile?
Can I answer this?
Well, yeah, and I've got a piece too,
Okay.
but
So during the
you should answer, but I have an answer for it.
So during the pasta at the wall phase, we did all of his ideas, and we ran out of money. what I would recommend is sort of a balance between that. So we figured out the balance kind of this year, right? So January we said, all right, we're going to do some of your crazy ideas. Right? Come up with some crazy ideas. Let's throw pasta at the wall in a limited fashion in January, but let's have a process by which we determine which ideas are good and bad, or maybe not, the data may not be clear. So at the end of X amount of time, 3 months, we said we will come together, we'll have another meeting. We had agreed what the criteria was ahead of time, which is very important, to make that analysis. And then from that point forward, we sort of would meet once a month. And then we actually decided, okay, this is the market we're going to go into based on the data. And we both had agreed, because we were looking at it from different lenses, we were much more confident in our decision.
And the only other thing I'll add, we've been in the game for a while, so we're adults making decisions here. I don't think we've ever done anything frivolously. I mean, the reason I called Monique was because I wanted to make sure that we started a business and that we didn't invent something that didn't have value. So from day one, we're like, let's go figure out if someone's willing to pay for it, and if they are, then we'll build it. So for us, we've kind of flipped, it's not build it and then
Like a lot of technology companies.
figure out if you can make money on it. We really wanted to say, here's this concept, is it valuable enough you're willing to write a check for it? And if so, then it's maybe worth building. The sort of crazy idea stuff tends to come on use cases, so that may be a little other piece of color.
So I held the mic hostage here because I have a second idea. A second question. Yes, I did not give it back. Monique, a question to you. Is there ever a time where you feel like this is not your company? It's like Kyle's company,
Yes.
everybody. How do you deal with that, and how can Kyle help you, or how has he helped you deal with that?
So we went through a lot of conflict, I would say, the second year, and he was pretty much ready to fire me. So it was tough, because I kept saying to everyone, we need to focus. We need to focus. And he took it as I was killing his baby. I mean, really, honestly, viscerally, that's how he felt. And then we ran out of money. And then he was pretty pissed off at me, because I was like, no, we're going to sell into healthcare, and we're going to do it. I don't care how tired we are, march forward. And
After we laid off all of our staff.
Yeah, and he
it was just she and I. So when we ran out of, running out of money is an awesome sort of slap in the face to, let's try everything. You go, oh yeah, this is serious. We laid off all of our staff. We cut our salaries in half. For 18 months, we took non-livable wages and ran this thing on revenue. It was existentially awful.
Yeah.
But I learned a little lesson.
Yeah, and now we've sort of found that happy place where he gets to play in the sandbox to a certain extent with sort of guardrails on, and then I get to run the company, and now we're fine, and I don't think we'll go through that place again.
Yeah, no, I think it's good. Yeah.
Hi there.
Hi.
And this kind of dovetails off that. I see you guys as two sort of strong, independent, opposing magnetic pillars.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a line in between that I haven't heard that word yet, and to me that's trust.
Mm-hmm.
And how did you develop it? How do you nurture it? How do you keep it? I think
a great
in
question.
my business partnership, we're friends, and I normally trust them.
Yeah.
But how do you continue that when you're saying, I'm not the CEO?
Right. So I can start. This is where Kyle, that whole relationship and the twinning wheel really comes into power with his, wizardry, right? When we would go into conflict, he would go into a very empathetic listening space, and quite frankly, a very emotional space, and he would share with those emotions. As the warrior, I don't like to talk about emotion, right? We just tough it up and keep going. Because he was so vulnerable, it allowed me to kind of take my armor off a little, and be vulnerable. And when I was vulnerable to him, and I would share about, the point where I'm like, I can't drop anything. I can't let it go, or else that, to me, my view of myself then becomes a bad person. Then that's how we developed a really strong trust.
Yeah, and we also knew each other, informally before we started, and I had advised her on a business she was doing, so I kind of knew who she was as a business person. So I think there was a mutual respect, which isn't trust necessarily at all, but it's a really good foundation for it, right? I didn't have to question, her capabilities. I didn't have to question her intent. Sometimes because of this dynamic, she would do something that would make me think, well, wait, maybe she's questioning my intent. But what we've learned is, oh, we're looking at the world through different lenses. And so I think the thing where I've personally grown the most on the trust front is to say, whatever that initial emotion is of like, oh, how could you say that? Understand, she's trying to accomplish the same thing I am, she just does it in a different way. So for me, there's something about letting go of that ego piece of I have to have it my way and understand that we're both trying to do this, we just have different skills. And that's a really learned and very sort of active, ongoing learning kind of thing. So I think the trust just evolves over time. And doing things like running the company for 18 months with no money, and we still came out the other side of that. I mean, I trust her pretty flippin' deep.
I have a black belt in cash management now.
She's why Storyvine is still in business. Like, I'm why it exists.
Yeah.
She's why it's still in business, right? Yeah, exactly.
We've got 10 minutes left.
Okay. All right. So
I just want to go on record as saying I went mountain biking with that chick, and I want to say I like Monique way better than I like you.
Oh!
Thank you.
Oh, now I know how it feels. That sucks.
Yeah, it does.
Wow.
Yeah.
I was kind of digging it when it was the other way. Okay, we'll just do this really, really quickly. So we're at an education conference. How many people did their homework and downloaded the Storyvine app? If you could. Good. I won't ask the ones who didn't to do it. If you can right now, if you have an iOS device, go to the App Store and download Storyvine. Just search for Storyvine. You'll get to, when you have the app, you'll get to a login screen. You put in your email address here. And if it's successful, you'll see a selected video guide. It says America Succeeds. So get to there if you can. If you need help, I can raise your hand if you need help.
And it might be, that's probably the case. Yeah, there you go. Yep. Oh, you're good.
Monique
Anybody
will be
else
tech
need
support.
help? Yeah.
She'll get you through the
Is
process.
there a way to get the?
Yeah. So
Oh, if your email address doesn't work, you can go to tinyurl.com/adventure2018, and there's a sign-up form for the template.
Hey, Kyle.
Yeah.
New Mexico, did you register her as well? Do you remember when we went through the list?
Current client of Storyvine, so.
I don't. Did you register for this? I had a list from here, so you should be in there.
All right, I
That's
can get you registered,
Okay.
but I won't be able to do it right this second.
Can you go to this website and register?
Yeah, I'll do that.
Anybody else?
All right, so most of you got that set up. We're not going to do anything with that right now. So here's what I want you to do right now. So if you have an iPhone and you got Storyvine, raise your hand. Okay, keep them up. Now, if you have an Android or you couldn't download the app, I want you to go find someone who you haven't met yet, who's got their hand raised. Keep your hands up. Like Simon says.
Did you need help?
Really? You got to do that, right? It's the leadership thing.
Perfect.
So what I want you to do is physically get up from your chair. Go find someone with their hand up. If you don't have your hand up, go find someone you haven't met yet and pair up with them. And then sit back down. Everybody up. Come on. We're going to have fun.
Do you guys need?
Are you connected to the internet? Well, you've got Wi-Fi. Here you go.
I'll find just somebody who needs to be filmed.
Okay.
Let's see.
Is everybody paired up? Wait. I don't want you to start filming yet. We've got overachievers here. Is everybody paired up?
I need somebody who doesn't have an iPhone here.
What's that? What do you need?
She has an iPhone. She needs someone without an iPhone.
Anybody need someone with an iPhone?
There you go.
Okay. Quiet. Hey, Warrior, can you get them to quiet down?
Everybody, could you please be quiet? Thank you.
Okay, here's what I want you to do. Without technology, without using Storyvine, I want you to share with one another. We'll do like a minute each. I want you to share with the person that you're with. Why do you come to EDventure? And then I want you to share why or what you're excited about for the future of education. Okay? Right now, 60 seconds go. Then in 60 seconds, I'm going to flip you.
Yeah. Probably. Although it's kind of cold in here.
How's that? Good. Yeah. You did? Oh, just bad connection. You might want to flip out of, are you on Wi-Fi?
So it's been 60 seconds, just saying.
Okay. Okay, it's been 60 seconds, so flip over and have the other person share why you come and why you're excited about the future of education.
Shall I?
Yeah.
I'm not a good whistler.
Okay. All right, everybody. I know. Zip it up. I know you're between that. We just use that to get the juices flowing a little bit. So here's what I'd like you to do. So if you haven't yet, I'm going to have you launch the app, choose the video guide. You'll input some text, so figure out who's going to go first. The app will ask you for some permissions. Say okay to those. And then basically, you're going to take a picture. And if the person doesn't like their picture, you can redo it. So it tells you what to do. There's a little dotted outline where you put your head in the screen. You take a picture like you normally do. If you don't like it, you can redo it. If you do like it, you move on to the next step. And just follow the prompt. So at the bottom of the screen's a little prompt. And so just pair off and interview one another. And raise your hand if you need any help.
Oh, thank you. We went to the Renaissance Festival and just kind of went Renaissance Festival. We took him and his 19-year-old twin boy.
Good.
And we're like, okay, we're gonna find a warrior and a wizard outfit. Yep. Yes. Yeah.
Ah, interesting. Yeah, so this is what's going to show up in the video. Yeah.
Good? You got it?
No, I subcounted
yeah.
the wrong thing, so I have all these.
We worked with a group that does Narcan. It's the opioid, if someone ODs, it saves them. And it was caregivers and addicts talking about how important it is.
You can always redo it.
Not quite how you're talking about it. We've done work in that space, and it's incredibly powerful. Like the insight about.
Got it?
Wow, that's amazing. So I don't know if you've got connection. What we need is we don't have expertise in that, but there's a nonprofit out there, or there's a political advocacy group, or there's a
see how his head is right next to the
if you
light,
know
have
someone
his
in
head
that
block the
space
light a little
that.
bit. There you go, perfect. And then tap his face.
Perfect. Yeah. What do you mean back to the picture? Oh, you want to start over?
Oh, yeah, okay, who's next? Let her do that. Cheryl Straight. Demi Moore. And there's the
Absolutely.
other two.
Why don't you have him take a picture?
I can picture the other two.
Oh, why aren't you going to take a
It was
picture?
really funny because I was on a date with a guy a long time ago, and he's like,
All right, you ready?
He's like, you look like Demi Moore, and I'm like, I don't mind
There you go. How's that?
But he told me that he thought she was
You want me to do your interview? All right.
Oh, yeah,
Here
I've
we
heard
go.
Lyle. Yeah, please.
Okay, so the first one's just an intro. So just
Gotta see
name,
that. Yeah, definitely
role,
the hair.
organization, and how many years you've come to EDventure. Ready? I'm going to hit record and I'll nod.
Yeah, no, I can see that.
Perfect.
No, you look.
Next question, easy. Why do you come to EDventure? Ready?
I definitely get the generic like
Please repeat. Please repeat.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And then last one,
Renaissance Fest.
what excites you most about the future of education? You can tie this to your thing or just be
like,
more generic. but make it be personal.
We went to a couple of
Okay?
costume shops, and I'm like, oh, like, I'm not seeing the quality of costume that we really wanted, because we think that we can do this speech over and over. We think it's a good speech. First time. Well, we learned about last week. But,
Perfect.
so I was
And you
like,
hit
I really
continue.
want a good
And
costume.
just say, my name is, and I'm an adventurer. Here we
And
go.
finally,
Ready?
I realized, I'm like, this is the last weekend of the Renaissance Fest. Like, we have to get there. So we went.
Perfect. And the last one is just,
Yeah, they have all this stuff.
America Succeeds has my permission to use this video. Okay? Hang on.
Well, like, I mean, it's clothing. Like, yeah, like a lot of these people, I think, wear. Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And then we hit
So
upload.
we went
It goes
from
up to the
little
cloud,
shop
and
to
2
shop
minutes
to
later
shop
we'll have a
and
video.
tried different outfits. And,
Thank you. There's Jason.
yeah.
All right, now you're going. Oh, got it.
Hey, Jason. Jason, how are we time-wise?
Well, let me know, because I have a costume now.
You guys gonna wrap it up?
Yeah, we're basically done.
Overrated. I like this
So
stuff.
5:27. So
What they tell
a
you?
few minutes. I didn't.
Yeah, so they literally have like a piece of wood. So it's still,
Upload canceled. What does that mean?
Okay, let's see. It's okay, I promise you. There is a command where you, let's see, I think you swipe left and upload cues. Hold on.
Do it again.
Oh, that's a good one. I've never seen that one before. Don't do
All right.
anything. Don't touch
All
it.
right.
Don't touch it. Where's that warrior? Oh,
Obviously, we're here, but they know about.
Madam
Picking up
Warrior.
midnight.
Yes.
We have an error screen I've not seen before.
Upload cancel. Oh my! Are you happy with what you filmed?
Okay, good.
Okay, good. We'll just pull it up from your.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't try to get out of this.
Okay, what is the name?
The password. For
Okay. Okay. Everybody, start wrapping up if you can. We need to wrap it up and keep us on schedule. Yep. So give it about a minute and then wrap it up.
So upload's complete.
Okay.
I don't want to start it.
That's all right. You can just do that. You
all
can
right,
just quit.
somebody turn the camera on her.
There you go.
All right,
So
but you didn't.
it goes up
but
to the cloud.
why
It's
are
going to
you
be
out of
edited.
the-
We're
Let's see.
sending a lot of them up there, so I don't know how long it'll be. And you'll get an email back. And then if you put it in the email, in the text fields, that person will also get an email back. All right?
Well, did you upload? Did you hit upload at the end?
I did see a big arrow, but I think it disappeared. There it is.
So, where are you in the process? Okay, you need to ask whoever you were interviewing. You need to ask that question to.
I know, but they answered
Awesome.
within
Their first question.
Thank you.
You still have to go through the process.
And there is actual magic potion in here.
So keep going. Just keep going.
Yeah, okay, so the
Ain't
second
wrong. But it's not water. Magic potion.
So you just hit choose or cancel.
Yeah, but what you'll need to do, Kyle at Storyline's my email. Email me the right information and what's the wrong information that's in there, and we can fix it on the back end. That's cool. Okay, Monique, you want to come back up and we'll. We'll just wait for. Looks like one or two are finishing up. Okay. Everybody, if we could quiet it down. If you could just pause. If you're in the middle of a take, just pause it and redo that take. That's all we have time for. I really, really want to thank America Succeeds and the whole America Succeeds team for inviting us. Really honored to be here.
Thank
We're
you.
very new to the education space, so thank you. And thank you all for being good sports, and hope you like this. That's it for us. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, before we lose you entirely. So we're going to roll right into dinner. So the buffet is set up already, and it looks like they're ready to go. So we're going to roll right into dinner, and after we have dinner, we're going to move next door for Shark Tank, and Shark Tank has desserts and more cocktails. So enjoy.